Welcome back to Lucid Living. And if this is your first time, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy to have you aboard. My name is Andrew Larkin. I'm an actor, model, performer, storyteller, breathwork coach, and today I'm going to be your host, your guide for today's podcast episode. All right, my friends, we have a mega talented dude on the podcast today who we met about a year ago and is doing some really cool stuff right now. We're going to get into it. I'm really excited to get into it. But before we dive into this episode, we're going to start with some nice intentional breath work. So today I'm feeling a 4-2-6 breath count. As we exhale longer than our inhale, it channels the parasympathetic nervous system, which allows us to calm down, rest, and digest, and all that good stuff. And we're going to do that for 3 rounds. So remember, as we inhale for this, we're going to inhale through the nose and expand your belly like you're filling up a water balloon nice and big for 4. We're going to hold for 2, and they're going to exhale out the mouth for 6, and that belly's going to come back to your center. And we're going to do that 3 times. Whether this is your morning, your afternoon, or your night, it just brings a little bit of calmness and stillness and mindfulness for the rest of the day. So take this moment, ground ourselves, and let's begin with an inhale through the nose in 3, 2, 1. Big inhale through the nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2. Exhale out the mouth. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale through the nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2. Exhale out the mouth. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last one. Big inhale through the nose. Nice big belly. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2. Exhale out the mouth. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, you can wiggle the toes, wiggle the fingertips, take a sip of water, however you feel called. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, this is a really unique position that we're in because I'm connecting with a guy who is currently on tour, national, and I guess even global, of the show Pretty Woman, and he's also a fellow heavy hitter. My friends, we got Brandon Upton.
Hey, hey, how you doing?
Good man, good man. So I always ask like where people are, but this is really unique because you've been bouncing all over the place. So right now, just let the audience know where are you geographically in the world, and then how are you feeling in this particular season of life?
Right now I'm in Michigan. I'm about to finish up tour. I got another week after this, and then I'm done. I've been on tour for 6 months, so it's been a lot. Yeah, it's been a lot of bouncing around. And I'm honestly just thankful. I'm bittersweet that the tour is coming to an end, but thankful for all the opportunities that it's provided me and all the people that I get to meet and share the story with.
Amen, brother. Amen. We're gonna dive deep into that because I'm so curious about how that whole experience has been for
Yeah.
you. But now we're gonna dive into the past a little bit, if you don't mind. So I always find when I love connecting with people, and as I learn about myself, so much of who I am, and really came from how I was raised, what my parents were like, what that childhood environment was like, my likes, my dislikes, and then elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and beyond, and all of those kind of steps that led me to where I am. And I always find it fascinating to everyone's kind of trajectory and life story. So this is a loaded question, and you can take this in any direction that you'd like. But if you had to explain your story in your own words, what was life like for a young Brandon growing up that led you to where you are today?
Uh, Life was interesting. I played a lot of sports growing up, obviously, heavy hitters,
Mm,
a lot of baseball, a lot of basketball, a lot of soccer. Um, Life was interesting. Uh, Mentally, I struggled with some things which made me turn to singing and acting as a form of just therapy, I think.
mm,
Um, and I think that was really helpful, in general for me, acting became like a way to escape life. And it's still how I look at it, escape life and you get to be someone else for a little bit. All
mm,
of your worries don't matter. Um, and yeah, so growing up, I had an interesting childhood, in and out of trouble sometimes, how that goes. Um, but as I grew up, the one thing that always stayed consistent was the fact that I was an actor, was the fact that I was a singer, was the fact that I had this escape from life that I could take it anytime and be an actor, you know.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, man. And without, probably going into too much detail as to what that was that led you to that, because I always find sometimes the darkest moments, like we can use that as actors, and it informs so much of our work, and it like makes us very available as our tool. But it can also be really challenging because we do feel like we need to escape into those characters. But for anyone else who's listening, because I know I mean, a lot of other friends, I've heard so many stories of, the best actors in the world and their childhood and what they went through and the challenges and the tribulations of that. And it's really like sometimes, I mean, it's so easy to look at life as like happening to us. My mom always says that like we, our souls that came in and we chose our parents, we chose our circumstances, and as like challenging and hard as that was, sometimes it's like those challenging circumstances that propel you to greatness because it's a great motivating force to kind of get out of that environment. So if there's anyone else listening who's like been through and gone through like a tough childhood, is there anything you'd like to share about what life was like growing up, or anything that kind of led you to this form? Because I mean, art is a lot of things, and escapism is definitely one of them. But if there's anything you were willing to share that someone else could feel like maybe less alone, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. A lot of actors struggle with, mental health issues. And I think a lot of people in general, it's not spoken upon as much as it should be. Um, and it's okay to not be okay sometimes. And I think that the world is starting to accept that, but I think that it should always have been accepted, you know? It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to have a rough day. Um, it's okay to not feel yourself, you know?
Hmm.
And I feel like having good ways to cope with that is the most important thing.
Yeah,
So,
100%, dude. Now, which came first? Was it sports or was it acting, or were they come at the same time?
so being born and raised in New York, I was kind of around acting a lot. My sister went to LaGuardia,
Mm,
high school. So, I was around acting a lot, but I was a very athletic kid, so I would say probably sports.
mm,
Um, T-ball and all that. And then I actually stopped playing sports for a while because I had to make a decision between sports and acting. And, I had D1 offers to play baseball in college. And yeah, and instead I turned down those to go do theater professionally because I saw more of a career and I was happier in theater, you know? Yeah.
How old were you when you first like entered the theater space, the performing space?
My first off-Broadway show was 8 years old.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I performed A Christmas Carol
Mhm,
as Boy Ebenezer at AMC Theater, or AMT Theater, which is a very well-known off-Broadway theater. Um, yeah, yeah. And I remember I would literally come from soccer practice to rehearsal.
mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
it's quite.
and then when you went to, so you started studying and practicing that in high school. Were you doing like the high school plays?
So no, actually. So my high school was during COVID.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so
mm,
I kind of got screwed over there. Yeah, I'm young, so
mhm,
got screwed over a little there. But COVID definitely helped me critique my craft vocally. So I was a vocal major at Frank Sinatra.
mhm,
So vocally it helped me hone my craft. Um, and then I actually didn't start dancing until I was 18. Um, so when I went into college, it was like, whoa, wait, to do musical theater, you have to dance? All right, I thought I was gonna be, Jeremy Jordan.
mhm,
Um, and then I realized I'm not Jeremy Jordan and I have to dance.
mhm,
Um, and I mean, to this day, I'm working with some of the most talented dancers that I know. So
mhm. Yeah,
yeah.
no, this is awesome because I highlighted I really want to talk about the singing and the dancing that comes into performance because you're truly like a Swiss Army knife. I'm not talking drama, singing, dancing, music. Like it's also a sport. So having that sports background is so helpful in it. But I want to talk about the pandemic for a little bit because I think the pandemic has shifted a lot of things for different people who are at different stages in their life. Like for me, the pandemic came when I was a senior in college. So it like cut my last semester in half. But at that time, I was already like, I kind of started to know who I am and was doing the work. And it was a very different phase. Bro, if that happened to me in high school, dude, where I'm like still like have no idea who I am, and then you're disconnected from your peers, and like I don't even know how I would have navigated that. So and then I also think it's like it created. I think there was already a bit of an epidemic of loneliness because of social media kind of creating isolation and being able to communicate not physically with people. But then you have the pandemic where it's like we physically like I was in an Aldi once, and this woman like was gonna kill another woman because she was like 4 feet away from her. Like it was crazy, and
Yeah.
it created so much fear. But it created that more of that isolation, which also you have like the mental health component of that as well, and like already growing up and having those mental health struggles. Like I feel like it just exacerbated everything while you're also in a heightened period of high school, which is a weird, crazy time. So, what was the pandemic like for you and navigating that in high school?
It was weird. Pandemic times, I mean, there's no real way to be like, well, the pandemic was this way for me. It was just, it was, in my opinion, it was like, well, this is eventually hopefully going to pass. Um, we don't know when that's going to be. I was pretty much taking that time to take care of me, um, mentally, physically. I started hitting the gym a bunch, and you know, before the gyms were even open, it was like, all right, I'm gonna go to the park, and I started running. I hate running. It was
Mhm.
just a way to clear your head, and I focused a lot on taking care of myself and furthering taking the time that I wouldn't have been given if the pandemic didn't happen, making the best out of the worst things. So, taking the pandemic, the free time, and using that to sing and perfect singing,
Mhm.
um, and trying to just become the best that I could be at that time.
Yeah. And
So,
what does like taking care of yourself look like?
um, it was a lot of rest,
Yeah.
and not like being lazy and sleeping, just like not thinking, resting my brain for a minute, which was very helpful in seeing clearer. Uh, yeah. And then eating healthy and the gym. I started getting into the gym when I was in COVID. And,
Mhm.
I'm sure as you saw during Heavy Hitters, I wasn't a little guy. I
Mhm.
used to be tiny. I used to be
Mhm.
a skin and bones. And now, I mean, I get hired based off of muscles at times.
Yeah, man.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now I want to talk about the singing and the dancing component because again, this is such a unique skill. It's like there's a musicality to it where there's like that natural inclination, but then there's also the work ethic that comes from discipline, like playing a sport, like working out in the gym and finding that consistency. But there's also like singing and dancing is one of like it's a very cathartic thing that I mean I guess you get it with sports too and the gym, but it's there's a fun, there's an energy, there's a storytelling, there's a camaraderie because you're doing it with other people. So I'm curious when did like singing and dancing, I mean, I know you said dancing came a little later, but when did that come into the sphere? And then what has been like the growth progression from? Because, dude, I took a singing class for the first like a course one-on-one for like 2 years ago. Bro, it's like I was doing a lot of work on myself too, so I felt very strong in like failing and I was comfortable with failing. Failing singing is so gnarly because it is so vulnerable. And there's nothing like trying to get to that note and your voice just completely cracks,
Cracks.
feeling like you're
Yep.
nothing. And it's very vulnerable. Dancing is very vulnerable. Like even for men, like I'd love to talk about masculinity at some point too. Dancing for some reason, like at the straight man, like dancing sexually is like not a thing, for some
Yeah.
reason, but it's so freeing. It's liberating. There's like this beautiful energy to it. So I don't even know if this is such a general question, but singing and dancing, like what does it mean to you? And then what has been the growth from like day one to where you are now?
So singing, in my opinion, makes me who I am. I am a singer at heart. Before acting, before dancing, I've been singing. I mean, I went to performing arts middle school, I went to performing arts high school, so I've been singing since I was little.
Mhm.
Um, and then that kind of transfers into, um, growing up, singing was what I wanted to do. At one point I had producers reaching out wanting to like sign me to singing deals, and I was like, I want to do theater. And realizing that like theater is a whole other thing. Like there is so much that I had to learn. There's still so much now, and I'm on a Broadway national tour. There's still so much now that I have to learn. And I think part of being an artist is learning from people around you and the skills that other people have. So, I was looking around me and I was like, wait a minute, everyone knows how to dance now. Hold up. I missed that chapter in this book. Um, so uh in college, I did a year of college and then I dropped out. So in college, I started learning how to dance and I sucked. Like I was bad. And, when I say dancing, it starts with ballet. And like you're walking into class, you're wearing tights, like it's not the most comfortable situation, especially somebody coming from, sports. It's
Mhm.
not great, but you learn to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, and that's when the best things happen, is being comfortable in that uncomfortable, vulnerable place. Um, because it takes a hot minute to get there, but once you're there, nothing anybody can say is going to hurt you. All that it's going to do is going to help you and push you to be better than you were yesterday. And even if that's 1%, 1% over 100 days is 100% better, and it's that mindset that you have to keep in order to try to be better every day. Try to be better than you were last week. Try to be better than you were last year. That's what really, in my opinion, pushed me as a performer, as I was just trying to be better than I once was. And then looking back on old videos of me singing versus now, it was like, wow, I don't really feel any different. And then like when I sing, I don't hear any difference. But when I watch a video back, there's a world of difference. I sound 20 years different, and
Mhm.
it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy what good teachers could help you do and what hard work can help you do.
So now how do you feel? You said you started dancing when you were 18. How do you feel now after putting in those hours?
Oh, I still have so much to learn.
Mhm.
I still have, I mean, so much to learn. Uh, this rehearsal process was definitely one of the hardest that I've ever done. Um, as I train at BDC all the time, when I'm home.
Mhm.
So I was taking class 3 times a day, so that's about 6 hours of dance class a day. And I did that for like a week straight in preparation for this show, in preparation for this rehearsal. We got to the rehearsal, and when I tell you they kicked my butt, like I was standing there and the stuff that like some of these people could do, it's mind-boggling. Like my brain didn't work the same way that theirs did because they've been dancing since they were 3. It's the same way that like my brain works different with music. I can pick up music like that. They can pick up dance moves like that. It takes me a hot second to pick up a dance move.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, I would look around and I'm like, that's a skill. Picking up a dance is a skill, and then you bring acting into it, and then you're singing on top of it, and it's crazy how you have all these different levels of something, and they all kind of mush together to make this perfect product. And yeah,
Mhm. Dude, it's beautiful, man. And honestly, I think in life, a lot of people talk about this, even in like exec rooms, but you want to surround yourself where you're like not like put self-degradation where it's like you're putting yourself down, but I don't want to be the best person in the room, honestly, ever, because you're
yeah,
constantly reaching up. Like my Kobe Bryant was like that when he was 18. He couldn't score a basket on like kids who are a lot older. Maybe that was when he was like 14. But like that's how you get better. You keep reaching, you keep getting inspired, and you're around people that you love, doing things that you love. And if you love it, which in the arts, like that's why we do it, it's amazing what kind of growth you can have over that time. It's unbelievable. So I want to talk about the stamina for a second. So I did a musical. I'm not a musical theater guy. I love and appreciate musical theaters. I would if I really studied and practiced it, I think I would totally love it, but not being trained. I did a musical last year. I had one song and I like lost my voice one production. Like it's and these and a lot of performers are singing like five, six big massive numbers one day, like 8 days. Oh, it's crazy, bro. It's crazy. And they're dancing and they're performing and it's live audience. Like it's gnarly. It's so it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable is what it is. And you are putting that all to the test right now because you're on tour and you're doing how many shows are you doing a week?
8.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And you're traveling, so you have like I don't know, jet lag is a thing, or like circadian rhythms are kind of off, and you have to
hmm
constantly be on. And I mean, this kind of mental idea of watched what's his name, a musician who was traveling, and they're doing like 180 days for a year, and you have to remember, you're like, guys, we've done this show every day for how many days, but this is the first time that audience members
The
are gonna
audience is
you
seeing it.
have to
Yeah.
you have to bring it fresh. So I want to talk about stamina for a second. So how do you maintain vocal support? How do you support yourself and make sure that you're fresh and strong and your voice isn't breaking down? How do you make sure physically like you're getting enough sleep on long days and like shows sometimes go till like 11 or I don't know midnight maybe. Like how do you maintain all that for 8 shows, 8 shows a week for 6 months?
It's definitely a challenge. I mean, the rehearsal process, when we first started, I like couldn't talk after a rehearsal because I just needed my body to rest because I wasn't used to it. I wasn't used to singing for 12 hours straight a day. I'm still not used to. I mean, if you ask me to sing for 12 hours straight a day now, no way that's happening. So that was definitely a big thing is learning in the rehearsal process. The rehearsal process isn't just for learning the show, it's learning how you're going to respond to the show, like physically. My body was sore as hell. Um, I mean, my voice, I just couldn't speak, and then the hardest part, honestly, with what I'm doing now is the touring aspect of it, is the travel. Travel just takes it out of you. We've been on a bus some days 10 hours and then we have to perform that night. We get on the bus at 4 or 5 in the morning, travel for 10 hours, and then we have a show at 7 o'clock that night, 8 o'clock that night. Um, so I think that's physically, um, there's nothing really you can do about it. You're going to be in pain, but you always have to remember that you're doing theater for the love of theater. And there's always going to be that 5-year-old that, hasn't ever seen a musical. And especially with touring, a lot of these people have never seen musicals. And you're bringing a Broadway level show to people that have never seen a musical. The story of just being able to be that guy, not even that guy, but that performance that brought someone into what you love doing, that shared the love that you have for the art form, you know, being able to do that just really drives you through the day. And then vocally, I've been a singer for years and years. I'm still, I had tonsillitis the other day. I called out of the show for a day, and then with my tonsils bleeding, I was singing, doing a show, full out, and you know, you you know your limits as a performer, and when you've been singing for as long as I have, you kind of know what your body needs, you know, whether it's like actually in pain. And if you're contagious, you always call out. And that's why we love our swings and understudies because, oh my God, the theater world would be nothing without them. Um, we love them. Uh, but no one, I think, as a performer ever wants to call out because we all want to be there when that person falls in love with theater. And we all want to be that reason that that person falls in love with theater because we were all that person at one point. We were all that 6-year-old sitting in the audience saying, I want to do this. That is amazing. They took me out of reality. And yeah, it's insane.
I love that, man. I love that so much. All right, we're going to talk about fitness in a little bit, but one of the big components in fitness is not just going to the gym, but also nutrition. How are you like, are you able to go to the gym and also are you able to like get your macros in when you're traveling like that?
Um, I've struggled going to the gym because I am in so much pain. Um, because of all the dancing, I'm not used to dancing this much. Um, and the travel and all this. They have gyms that we can go to. I mean, they don't have one that goes up pretty heavy weights. I mean, we have hotel gyms, which normally like 50-pound dumbbells at most, you know. Um, so, there's that aspect of things. I'm also shirtless during the show. So I do have to, you know, I naturally am a skinnier guy. So no matter, I have a fast metabolism, so no matter what I eat, um, I'll be pretty okay. So like, this isn't gonna sound good, but I've been eating a lot of McDonald's and a lot of Chipotle though, a lot of Chipotle.
What? Mm-hmm.
So you gotta love Chipotle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also on the road so much, like we did 10 shows in 14 days, or 10 different cities in 14 days. Um, and that was rough and brutal, and wouldn't recommend it to my worst enemy. Um, but you don't really have a say on what you eat at times because it's literally, all right, well, we're stopping here for an hour. All that's here is a Wendy's and a Walmart. So
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna eat crappy Walmart food and Wendy's, like, and then you're gonna go burn it all off. So like, I haven't gained any muscle. I've definitely lost muscle, but I definitely haven't gained any muscle on the road.
I mean,
Yeah,
you're exercising every day. You're performing anyways, so
yeah,
that definitely helps. That definitely helps.
yeah.
What if you can remember which cities you've been to, could you like rattle off all the cities that you've been to?
We've been to 57 cities in 5 months. So I mean, some of them just go into a blur.
You don't have to do
Um,
it. That's crazy.
yeah. I mean, we've been to Canada. We pretty much started their tour in Canada. All of the Northeast. Um, a lot of Texas. When I tell you we spent a week in Texas and you can drive 12 hours in Texas and still be in Texas, and you can do that multiple days and still be in Texas. That's crazy. That's absolutely insane. Um, we went to Mexico for 2 weeks. So we've been a lot of places. And a lot of the time it's a one-nighter, my tour. So I think I mean, there are days where I don't even remember what day of the week it is. So, remembering like I know we went to Massachusetts, Indiana, Arizona, um, Wisconsin, Missouri, California. Um, the only state that I'm missing after this tour is Hawaii. Put it that way. Yeah.
Rick, what would you say is has been your favorite city? Whether that's like the audience reaction or
Um, a hard one. It's a hard one because every audience reacts differently, and what they react to is funny sometimes. I mean, as an actor, it's sometimes funny. Um, I would say I'm most thankful for the Monterey, um, Mexico audience because they helped us do some really tough times as performers on stage. We were crying doing the show during that show.
hmm.
Um, yeah.
Was that from the event?
Yes.
Okay, I wanted to bring
Yes.
this up, because I know you shared this with me, but I'm sure everyone listening hasn't probably heard of this. So if you are willing to share what happened on that night.
So I can't say too much.
Hmm.
Um, but what I
How did
can
you recover
say,
from it?
how did I recover from it? I needed time to process what I had just seen. So long story short, one of our performers at some point, our lead performer, um, walks out on stage with a towel over her head, singing a song, walking backwards, and misjudged the stage and fell off the stage into the pit. And was very injured. Um, very scary situation. Um, And she was very young. She's fine now. She's fully recovering. Just a very scary situation. As a performer, you never want to see someone you care about like that get hurt like that. And she's one of the nicest performers. Like and she's one of the best performers I've ever seen. And I don't say that often. But that girl deserves every single lead that she's about to get on Broadway because that girl's going to Broadway. And that girl, I mean, just to be able to say that I worked with her is a an honor. Um, yeah, and I wish that what happened didn't happen. Um, but the audiences and the the fact that we're here is going to sound bad, but we are here to do a job at the end of the day. Um, and that job is to bring a show to the audience. And there are some shows that hit us harder than people realize. And opening number the next day, um, I don't think there wasn't a person that called out. I mean, some of us were like seriously injured and sick, and like, nobody called out because we had to be there for each other. And we were crying. I know I was crying on stage, but you would look out and you'd see the smile of that 5-year-old, that 6-year-old seeing the show, and you'd also see the smile of an 80-year-old. And that would remind you, like, hey, this is why I'm doing the show. No, they're gonna help me through the show. It's not anything that I'm gonna be able to do. I'm gonna show that I'm vulnerable and they're gonna help me through it. And that's whether the audience realizes or not sometimes. They're laughing, just their claps, even just the silence of things helps us as performers, you know? Yeah.
Mm, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Y'all, I mean, you build that family when you're traveling that long, doing that many shows.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And all prayers to her. She's a
Yeah.
talent. I'm excited to see what she does next. Last thing I want to ask about Pretty Woman because I feel like a lot of people I talk to, actually, I mean, a lot of the boys, we do theater, but I hear at least a lot more about how the film industry is changing and how self tapes are becoming a lot more prevalent. But what was the process like the audition process for you for Pretty Woman? Yeah, however you want to say, like, was that in person? Is there a dancing scene? Do you have to come in with your own numbers? What was that like?
So what my process was very different than a lot of people's. So I actually met the lead of Pretty Woman last year while doing a background gig
Mm,
on a really weird indie film. Um, and he started talking to me. Um, and I was like, "Yeah, I do theater." He was like, "Oh, I do theater. I'm on the national tour." And I was like, "Oh my God, you're like actually famous." Like, and he was like, "No, no, but I'd love for you to join, blah, blah, blah." I was like, "Yeah, I'll give you my information and stuff." And I gave him, a bunch of recordings of me singing, and he sent them on. And then we lost contact for like 2 months. We hadn't spoken in 2 months. Um, and then on Actors Access, the breakdowns came out for, that we need this, we need this, we need this for Pretty Woman. I was like, okay, so he didn't pass me along. Got it, got it, got it. And then I texted him and I was like, hey, I just saw the breakdown. He was like, oh yeah, I just sent over your stuff to them again to remind them. I was like, oh, okay. Um, and then 2 weeks went by. Um, and then I found out about Heavy Hitters. We started or we started rehearsing for Heavy Hitters, all the games and
mhm,
stuff. And then a day before the first day of filming, or 2 days before the first day of filming, I got an email from the casting agency being like, "Hey, we want to see you in person." Great. When? It was the first day of filming for Happy Hitters. So I sat there for a minute and I was like, I don't want to ruin my relationship with Candy. Because She's a great director. And I was like, okay, but this could set me up for the next 6 months.
Mhm.
Um, and as a performer, I'm sure you know, you always have to be thinking ahead.
Mhm.
Um, so I learned everything, and day of, I was like, all right, I gotta go to this audition. I almost didn't go because I'm not a dancer, and I was like, I'm gonna embarrass myself in front of these people. Like, um, it was bad. And yeah, I had my ex-girlfriend now teach me the dance, who is a very, very good dancer. But I mean, it took me 3 days to learn a 30-second dance. But I was trying to perfect it, and you know, I did well enough that they saw something in me, and yeah. And then when I got the role, it was the next day.
Mhm.
Um, we were coming home from Heavy Hitters. I was coming home from set, and
Mhm.
I'll never forget. I was with like four guys, and we were getting on the train, and I was like, I just got an email from Pretty Woman, and one of the guys started recording, and I have a recording of me just losing it, finding out that I got the role.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Those are the moments, man. Those are the moments. I love that.
yeah,
Little serendipity. Okay, I actually do have one final question about Pretty Woman. What
yeah.
is it like? Because your character has a very cool, unique look. What is it like when you get fan art? Because I think I saw you share something and like it, I thought that was pretty cool. What is that? What was that like when you saw that?
I think some of our fan art is the sickest thing ever. We have one super fan, Lily. We love Lily. Um, who, draws stuff. I'll actually show you. I have a teddy bear. Um, it's the sickest thing ever. That literally looks like my character. Um, so I think like stuff like this, like it's the sickest thing ever. He has a little cowboy hat on, like it's awesome, and being able to see stuff like you're impacting people so much that they're literally drawing you, they're giving you stuff like that. That's insane. It's insane.
Mm.
It's more than I could have ever asked for, to be honest.
Dude, superstardom. And it's funny because I feel like sometimes as an audience member, you're watching, you're thinking this person's like on this massive stage, like they're living the life, the perfect life. They're probably getting so many like so many this, so many that. But then you don't realize that like sometimes like it is a long day. Some days I feel a little lonely, and then sometimes like little small gestures like that, it's unreal. It goes such a long way. So that's what.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, now I want to talk about fitness a little bit because you're a beast, undeniable. And you have a bit of that transformational journey story, like starting at 18 to where you are now. And I also saw the video that you shared where we talked a little bit about having body dysmorphia. And I find it fascinating because I think everyone has like a little bit of body dysmorphia, you know? And honestly, I never looked at like cared about how I looked when I was in middle school, like before social media, you know what I'm saying? Like never cared about like my face, my like honestly body, like I was just always playing sports. High school, again, I didn't really care that much about it. College a little bit more, but still not really. It really wasn't until I started like acting, started getting on camera, started doing photo shoots, started
Yeah,
my bad angles, my good angles, and then you start like manipulating and gua shuaing in the morning and like, you know, and I'm like, this is kind of gnarly. Like body dysmorphia became a real thing. Not to the degree like I've seen. I mean, you got like bodybuilders who are constantly looking at themselves and like touching themselves and like little bits of
yeah.
it's crazy and it can go definitely too far, but that kind of like leads into mental health. But what has your experience been like with body dysmorphia? Because I mean, your physique is insane. You know, you can like attest to that, but everyone has a little taste of that, and like I think sometimes for people who don't have that physique, they look at someone like, why are you complaining? Why are you like what are you talking about, you know? So what has your
Yeah.
experience been like with body dysmorphia and just fitness in general?
Um, Fitness was a place to take out some pent-up anger for me. Um, so I think that like body dysmorphia for me started coming after I realized that like fitness could help me in my career.
Mm,
Um, so I started working out when I was like 18, started hitting the gym when I was 18. And I mean, I was bad. Like I could not lift the bar at times. Like I was bad.
Did
And
you,
then
sorry, did you start off, did you have like a trainer? Or did you like go from like YouTube videos or were you just like, this is a
I was
bar, I think
just,
I'm supposed to lift it?
yeah,
Yeah.
I would literally just watch people and be like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Mm,
Okay, let me try it with like no weight. Let me get like the form down. And then I was like, all right. And people would laugh at me at the gym and like, people aren't very nice. Uh so and they always forget that like they were that kid once, they were that person.
yeah.
Um and I was a muscular kid growing up, but I was a skinny muscular kid where I had an issue putting on weight. Um so then I started eating right when I was 18, and that changed everything. I mean, I was eating north of 35, 4,000 calories, 3,500, 4,000 calories every day. So I was full, and body dysmorphia came when I started um trying to think or trying to look a certain way. When I was like, these muscles aren't symmetrical. Um I could get bigger if I just did this. And it it was more damaging than it was helpful. Um because your body's meant to fluctuate in weight. You know, you don't wake up and you're the same weight you go to bed as.
Hmm.
Your body's meant to fluctuate in weight, and also how you look. You get bloated sometimes. You don't always get the greatest pump in the gym, and that's okay. But you have to remember that like you're not there for instant gratification. It's the longevity of how long you're at the gym. You know, Also, why are you at the gym? Are you there just for looks, or are you there to better yourself? Are you there for mental health reasons? There are so many reasons that people at the gym that other people don't realize, and you don't have to share. Um, but there are definitely helpful things. It's a community, just like acting. Just like acting is a community. People want to support other people. So I found a group of people, and you know, it went from there. And focus on I was at the gym to release anger, and fell in love with it. And by falling in love with it, helped with some of my body dysmorphia, you know?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Dude, and I know because now, again, once it's like, Derek Russo. You met Russo? Do you ever meet Derek Russo?
I don't think so.
Monster of a human being. He's
Oh,
terrifying. He
oh
plays my
yeah,
dad
your
in the
your
show.
dad? Yeah.
Yeah. And he
He
has
makes me look small as hell.
Dude, he has such a unique, specific look where there's like five people in maybe America that could pull off like that physique with also he's like very funny and very loves improv and like the community like he's niching himself down to only a handful of people in this pool can really do that, which is
The way
so
he
helpful
does.
in your
Yeah.
career. And so having that physique is really helpful in narrowing and giving
Hmm.
more opportunities for you. I'm also curious because as you put on more size, like you have that kind of strong stability. But do you also like because you're dancing, like you're doing like ballet sometimes, like that's also a lot of flexibility. So you have to like balance the two. What is your routine in like maintaining flexibility while also having that strength and stability?
Stretching, lots and lots of stretching. I've been grateful to have um my ballet teacher from BDC. She is a very close friend of mine now. Um, so I can always reach out to her if, anything's wrong. Um, but she laid the groundwork when I was, brand new to dancing, that flexibility, dancing, it's all about stretching. You're not going to be able to do this if your body is limited by, you know, your ligaments not being able to move and your muscles being too tight. And there were days where she just goes, "All right, now stop working out for a little bit because you can't touch your shoulders. Like, your biceps are too big. Relax."
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, she's right. I trust her wholeheartedly, and she knows that. Um, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's a lot of stretching, lots and lots of stretching.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Now I want to I feel like in life there are so many days and moments where it's so easy for like a day to turn into a week to turn into a month to turn into a year, and we kind of forget why we're doing what we're doing, or like, living in gratitude. It's not until like there are moments like I got in this boating accident when I was, what was that? That was like 2018, 2019, and everyone was totally fine. It was like I wouldn't wish any that on any of my enemies, but at the same time, I like connected. I felt so much love than I ever had before, and I also like realized how precious life is, how quickly it can all be taken away, and having those near-death experiences can sometimes really shift the trajectory of our lives, and
Yeah.
for better or for worse. But sometimes I think really for better. You don't have to share too much in this if you don't want to, but I know you had a surgery. You were pretty close to dancing with Mr. Death or Mrs. Death.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you're willing to share, what was that experience like for you? And what
So I had
was
an
it?
aneurysm. Uh, I had an AVM on my temporal artery. Um, and I had a really bad headache, so I went to the hospital and they found out what it was and um, went straight into surgery. And as soon as they cut me open, I had a stroke. So I was under for 14 hours and um, flatlined for 45 minutes. A very scary situation. They had me on uh, where they circulate your blood for you. I'm blanking on what it's called. Um, but I was on that. Um, and I died, and that was a very, very scary situation, um, but also quite peaceful. Um, you know, a lot of people think of death as this like really painful thing, and mind you, I was on so many pain meds at that point that like I don't know if it's painful, um, but it was beautiful. Um, you know, you I slowly came out of my body and I saw them working on me. I know what the inside of my head looks like, which is the weirdest thing ever. Um, but then I just kept floating up, out of the hospital. You would go through walls. It was really weird. Go through walls, and then you just kept floating and floating and floating until I was looking at Earth, and then I was looking at the galaxy, and then everything slowly just got smaller and smaller, and uh, white light, or not a white light, but like everything slowly started turning white. I got so far from everything that everything just kind of started turning white. Um, and then when they brought me back, it felt like somebody took my toe, my big toe, and just went like that to it and snapped me back into my body. Um, it was a very unique experience.
Yeah, you like I feel like you shared that with me, but you do not like that, dude. That's crazy. That's
Yeah,
Are you a man of faith? Like, did that
I'm
change
not.
the
No,
way you looked at
no.
How old were you, by the way, when that happened?
I was 18.
Yeah.
So I have the scar right here. Yeah. So
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, dude. Do you like believe in a higher power like after having, because that's like a we
Um,
do like near death experiences, but like that's a true near death experience.
yeah. I believe there's a higher power out there. Um, just not like a god, in my opinion.
Mm,
Um, but I think that everything happens for a reason.
mm,
And it's like if that hadn't have happened, I wouldn't appreciate life the way that I do now. I wouldn't live in the moment as much as I do now. As much as actors, we have to look ahead. I'm on tour right now, and I mean, I won't be in 2 weeks. And I have a performance tonight for 3,000 people. I'm gonna be in my room in 2 weeks performing for my mirror. Like, do you live in the moment and you realize that everything happens for a reason, and everything, whether it helps or hurts you, always happens for that reason. And you'll never be privy to knowing it. what reason that is, you know?
Hmm. Bro, that's beautiful, man. And all I'm saying is that whether there is a God, not a God, strings universe, I don't know what it is, but you're here for a reason, man. And like they could have plucked you from this life, but they're like, no, no, you're here
You
for a reason,
know?
dude. You're here to tell stories. Freaking crazy, dude. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Got a couple more questions here. I want to dive into a little bit of masculinity talk here. I talked to a lot of the other boys about this, particularly because I mean we talked about like a lot of them again had that background in sports, and like for me, my experience in sports is like you got the locker room talk. You're talking about girls in a certain way, like it's like this kind of toxic masculinity that you're kind of exposed to. And me growing
Mhm.
up with two sisters, like a strong mom, I always had a lot more feminine energy than I did masculine energy. So it felt a little weird to try to like embody this version of what it means to be a man. And then sometimes it's like, okay, I'm like embracing this and like it feels inauthentic. And then it's like, okay, screw that. I'm gonna go completely in the opposite direction. Then I embrace too much of my feminine, and it's like I love my feminine side, but it's also like, how do you find that balance? How do you find that dance? So what has it been like for you? And then also like playing sports, but then also not just doing theater, but like musical theater, which I feel like the people might have stigmas or whatever that looks like around like what that means to be a man. I mean, I will say Tom Holland does talk about this when he was like young and he was a kid and he like did ballet and all of his homies were giving him flack for it. And he was like, "Bro, I'm like dancing. I'm just like the only guy in this class with like 20 other girls. Like, what are you talking about? This
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense."
Yeah.
So, what is your relationship been with masculinity, kind of like growing up, and then even today?
Um, it's been interesting. Uh, Definitely, I grew up with a sister and a mom. Um, so I think that the most important part of it for me was always just staying true to what I think, what I believe in. Um, so whether people thought, whatever they thought of my sexuality, blah blah blah. Um, you laugh and you joke around, but at the end of the day, you know you. And, you know, it people would, make jokes of like, oh, you're definitely gay because, you wear tights all day long while dancing, but they don't look at the other aspect of what Tom Holland said. I'm the only guy around 20 of the most beautiful women. If I saw these women at a bar, I would not be able to talk to them. I'm able to laugh and joke around with them, and at the end of the day, we're all just people. And I think that that is that gets lost in sports at times and toxic masculinity. There's a difference from masculinity and toxic masculinity. And I feel like in sports you have toxic masculinity, and in musical theater you have masculinity that understands and is able to use their life experiences to understand masculinity. Everyone has their own definition of masculinity. Um, and I think that's super important to remember is just like sexuality is a range. Masculinity is also a range, you
Mm-hmm.
know. I still think that there are times when like code switching is super important, you know. But there are also times when like professionalism is super important. You know, they call it locker room talk because you're not going to talk like that at work.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, um, because then HR is going to be on your ass.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I think that masculinity for me is just reminding myself that A, I don't have to explain myself to people. Um, B, um, code switching is a skill, but it's not a necessity. Um, and I know who I am, you know. I don't have anything to prove to anybody, you know, which I think is super important is that you don't try to prove something to anybody. You know you. That's all that matters. And I live by that motto is yeah.
Amen, brother. A freaking man to that. All right, last question I'll have in this past realm, I want to because we had touched on it, but I want to dive a little bit deeper into mental health. I talked to Mac's mom, dude, Kim, and she's like a mental wellness coach, and her mission really is to prevent suicide from I mean, people, but particularly artists, and there's something about this craft where it's like we're all in the circus, we're all doing something that makes no sense, like analytically, logistically, like we're setting ourselves up for quote unquote failure.
Yeah,
Our days are uneven, like our month, we might have like 2 months of not making money, and then 1 week of like we're balling, and then back to the crazy. There's no, or at least we strive for stability, but it's crazy, and it can breed a lot of mental health. And sometimes like the reasons why we get into this industry, into the performing arts, is because of like our childhood and our mental health. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like this
yeah,
beautiful breed of a lot of those struggles. And then, talk hearing about imposter syndrome, hearing about, not am I enough? Am I not enough? Can I do this part? Putting on all the different masks because we're actual actors putting on different masks, and it can like we can struggle with identity, and like staying true to who you are is so important because you bring that to every role, and that's unique, and that can separate yourself from the other actors who when you walk in a room you all look the same.
yeah.
So I don't even know, this is such like a general question, but mental health is just vapid in so much of the artistic space. How do you manage and like identify when, because even I mean you have those days where, and sometimes I feel like even calling it mental health can like spiral it along, but it's just like these, sometimes it's intrusive thoughts, sometimes it's
Yeah.
intrusive feelings. How do you manage when they come up during the day? Do you have practices in place to be able to, I feel myself going down, I don't want to spiral, I can get myself out of it, whether that's setting boundaries, whether that's doing things that you love? I know fitness is a big thing, but what kind of tools do you have in your tool belt to be able to navigate when those feelings start coming up?
I think a major one for me is separating myself from the situation and grounding myself again in who I am. So, stepping away for a little bit, um, just to be with my inner thoughts. Um, I think that a lot of conflicts nowadays mentally, um, people don't want to find solutions. They want to find reasons that those conflicts happened. Um, but if you never solve that, then you'll it'll keep reoccurring, and the snowball effect just starts happening, um, where it doesn't really help. Nothing is really being helped. It's just being prolonged. And it gets worse and worse and worse. What I've started doing is looking for a solution to that issue. Um, in just trying to find ways that I could change the situation myself. So whether that be taking myself out of the situation completely, um, changing the subject in a conversation, um, going to do something that I love. Um, there's a lot of ways that coping has helped. But I think one of the biggest ones has been uh, resolution, finding a reason and trying to resolve it, um,
Hmm.
personally.
What if it's like it doesn't involve necessarily another person? It's just like the intern, like it's just you in your room looking at yourself in the mirror, and you have all those stories or thoughts. How do you go through that?
Um, reaching out to a friend, you know, um, we have people that in our lives that know maybe not what we've been through, but know what helps us. Um, personally, for me, um, if it's an internal thing that I'm struggling with, it's the exact same thing. I want to be out of that situation. So reach out to a friend and hang out with a friend. Um, not being alone or uh, trying to figure out ways to change what I can change about the situation. Because not every situation can be changed. Um, but there are always things that I can do to change where I am in the situation, you know?
Hmm.
So
Yeah, bro, taking responsibility, taking control of our lives, bro. We are the creators of
yeah,
our reality. Like, it's so
yep.
easy to fall into that victim mindset, but when you realize that I am the creator, I can change this. I don't have to stay stuck in this. And you're doing it, bro. Ugh, bro, you're a beast. Okay, okay. We talked about the present. We talked about the past a little bit. Now I want to talk about the future. I mean, like we said, we have 2 more weeks, bro. You have 2 more weeks. This is crazy.
I
This is
know, I
crazy.
know.
One door closing, other doors opening. Now, I sometimes when I originally asked this question, I was like, dude, give me your dreams, your goals, your ambitions. Let's manifest it. Let's talk it into the universe. But then I'm also like, I kind of also like the idea of not necessarily telling everybody what I want to do and just doing the work and letting the work speak for itself. So I'll let
Yeah.
you answer this question in any way that you want. But what does like that vision of the future look like for you that you want to attract, that you want to manifest? It could be a vision board, it could be a mood board, it could be feelings that you want to attract. But how do you, after you got these 2 weeks, and then after those 2 weeks, how do you see and what do you want to manifest in the future?
Um, I definitely want to focus on, I just joined SAG.
Hey,
So
let's
yeah,
go. Let's
yeah. So I
go.
joined SAG while I was on tour.
Are you, sorry,
Um,
question. Are you equity too for
I'm
theater?
not, no.
Yeah,
So it's a non-union tour.
got you.
Yeah. So I just joined SAG while I was on tour. So I think I want to focus a lot on TV and film, and I'm talking to some people about some fun things, about some big, big things, um, that I will not be able to disclose at this point.
Yeah, that's okay. This is good. This is good.
But I definitely, I think that working with artists that want to tell a story and not just any story, but like a meaningful story is a massive thing for me. Um, Broadway is always, hopefully the goal, is a massive step towards that. A Broadway national tour is a massive step towards that. And making connections with people. Like one of the guys we had on our show or on Heavy Hitters, he was on Parade on Broadway.
Who was it?
Uh, I forget his name, but he was a
It's crazy.
yeah, and he worked with the choreographer that did my show, was the same choreographer. Did the Hairspray national tour.
Hmm.
Um, Absolutely insane. Um, Very humble and very just like nonchalant, like, yeah, I was on Broadway last week. What do you mean you were on Broadway last week? Like, you know, stuff like that. Finding performers that like they're good at what they do and they let their work speak for themselves and they know how connections work.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So I think that finding those people are finding people that want to tell a good story,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes, bro. And we didn't even talk about like film or TV, so we're gonna have to get you back on once all the things start because there's a lot to dissect, a lot to dissect. So little time.
Yeah,
But my brother, we
yeah.
talked about the past, the present, the future. Now we got some rapid fire questions because we're a very official podcast here.
Let's go.
Some serious, some all silly. Let's rock and roll. All right, Brandon, what would you say right now brings you the most joy?
Performing.
What are your top 4 values?
Mental health, physical health, um, eating well, and uh, creating new relationships.
Amen. What is your spirit animal?
Um, Jesus, a teddy bear.
Ooh,
You gotta bring back the teddy.
I like that. I like that. All right, this is a question that a lot of the final Q questions are very similar from like guest to guest, but this is one that I want to, as I like reflect on what do I want to, like what's my intention with this podcast is really like celebrating a lot of the guests on here. So I want you to share what is a moment as you reflect in life, one of the moments that you're most proud of,
Um, One of the moments I'm most proud of.
like proud of yourself.
Yeah. Um, I think being able to tell my parents that I booked this tour, um, and seeing them be not worried because I had 6 months of job security. Um, yeah, I think that was probably, and then being able to join SAG. I mean, there are so many things that recently have happened that it's just insane.
Mhm. Good energy, good things are coming. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Alrighty, what is this is a dude. You can think about this one for a second. A book, movie, or TV character that is most like you.
that's
It's a doozy.
yeah, yeah. You watch Suits,
I don't, man. I the LA one or the OG one?
the OG one.
It's okay. So people listening probably have.
I think Harvey um is definitely who I aspire to want to be like. I think that he thinks things through and isn't afraid of anybody.
Mm,
Um, yeah, and will challenge people if something's not right.
mm-hmm.
So,
Nice. Good
yeah.
answer. All right, peanut butter, crunchy or smooth? Unless you're allergic. That's a crazy
Oh,
question.
brother, smooth all the way.
Okay, okay, okay. I see how we play. All right.
Uh-huh.
Comfort film. Comfort film. It might not be your favorite
Uh,
film, but it's your comfort film that you go back to.
The Notebook.
Wait, what is that? Did you do a play for The Notebook too? Am I tripping?
No,
I didn't
no.
see it.
I watched it. Um watched it 8 times. It's my favorite film. And it's a great musical. Uh, John Cardoza, absolutely amazing performer. Um, yeah, just oh my God, it was such a good show. Such a good musical.
Mm,
Um, yeah.
it's a good answer. That's one where I actually because Nicholas Sparks is so iconic, but that's one where I feel like the movie was maybe almost even better than the book. Like it was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Legendary chemistry. All right, bro. Final meal on this life. You gotta choose
Final
one. You can do
meal.
appetizer, entree, and dessert.
Appetizer, I'm going with shrimp. Going with shrimp and cocktail sauce.
Mm.
Entree, probably a good steak.
Ooh,
Yeah, good
medium
steak.
rare.
Medium rare, always.
Where
With a
would you get it from? What's your
oof.
best place to get a steak?
Honestly, I think I'm cooking it myself.
Okay.
I'm grilling it up myself. Uh, yeah, with a nice side of mashed potatoes and then cheesecake for dessert.
Just plain old New York
Either
cheesecake.
plain, yeah, either plain cheesecake or like a strawberry or
Mm,
raspberry cheesecake. Oh, nothing beats that.
that's a good
Nothing
meal.
beats
I used to
that.
go to
Yeah.
Cheesecake Factory with my dad and we just split a cheesecake, like iconic.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Alrighty, my brother. So life has been pretty amazing. You have been on Broadway. You have told incredible stories on film, on TV. You bought your parents a beautiful house because you're so incredibly, amazingly successful. You have an amazing family. You give back to communities. You dance, you sing, you become a teacher. You do all the things that you want to accomplish in life. And you become a grandfather and you're telling stories on a rocking chair. You live to be like 140 years old, but ultimately, it's your time to pass and you go on to whether that's the next life or you go on to the next place and you have the day of your funeral and your friends and your families and your loved ones are attending. What do you want people to say about you and how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as somebody that no matter what happens, will always be there. Um, in any situation, you know. Yeah, I think that no matter what happens to a person, I'll always see the true character of them, and I want that to be what people remember.
I love it. All right, and final question. you got your younger self. I want you to visualize your younger self for a second, whether that's you in middle school when you're like 10, 11, 12, or in high school, pandemic's happening, everything's crazy. And it's one of those weird days where it's just you feel a little off, you feel lost in life and identity and what am I going to do with my life and all the things. And it's just having one of those days. What advice would you have for young Brandon who's having one of those days?
You're gonna be okay. This will pass, and you'll learn from
Mm-mm-mm. Amen. Amen, brother. Amen. Dude, such a thank you, bro, for being here.
it.
It was such an awesome joy. Again, you're like the first person I've ever like chatted with while you're on tour. Like this is a big moment. This is a big moment for me. And it's just been really cool getting to work with you on Heavy Hitters and be a part of the whole journey and process. I intentionally didn't want to talk about Heavy Hitters because I told all the guys I'm like, I want to talk about this once the show comes up because I always feel like it ruins the beautiful illusion that we create in our storytelling if we talk about like the behind the scenes or like the making of it. So once it comes out, then we can bring everyone back on
Yeah,
and start diving deep
yeah.
into it. But dude, I'm excited to see what you keep doing, what films are coming up, dude. SAG, doors are
I
opening,
know,
man.
I
Doors are
know.
opening. I'm freaking
Hopefully we get to shoot season two together,
yes, sir,
you
man.
know,
Yes,
you
sir.
know.
Dude, just keep on keeping on. But before I let you go, brother, where can the audience find you? Where can we support you?
My Instagram, Brandon underscore Upton 01. Ah.
Beautiful, beautiful, brother. Thank you, dude, so much for being on here, having like real conversations. I love you, man, and dude, just keep being a light, bro. Keep being a light. 2 more
Always a
weeks, bro.
pleasure to talk to
Freaking
you.
finish
Yeah,
strong. Finish
yeah,
strong.
yeah.
All right, bro.
Always a
Thank you,
pleasure to
dude.
talk to you, Andrew.